So I just want to go over feedback and how it relates to psychological safety. We cannot give feedback unless there is psychological safety. And strangely enough, feedback increases psychological safety. If I'm able to tell you when either you're doing something well, um, or doing something the way that it should be done, or doing something the correct way, it increases the trust between us. Um, in the same way, when I let you know that you are doing something, if I know that if I'm doing something that's not right, you're going to give me feedback about it, it also increases trust. Okay, so there's a very strong relationship between giving feedback and trust. So good feedback is timeless, which means that it is delivered as close as possible to the act, or the what somebody said or did. Um, it is also delivered to somebody only when they are ready for it. So one of the things that we need to make sure is when we give feedback that we ask permission to give feedback, so that the person is in a space to receive feedback, because we may say that we like feedback, but some days it's just hard for us to hear. So if I'm not in the space of being able to take feedback, I would much rather say to you that, can you can we talk about it tomorrow maybe, rather than today. So I talk about it as somebody's feedback medallion. Is somebody's feedback medallion turned to yes, or is it turned to no? Okay, before I give feedback. And the other thing about feedback is that it needs to be delivered as soon as possible after it's. I think I might have just said that, but something that I just want to add is the time between when something happens and when you feel ready to give feedback is directly dependent on the level of trust between you and the person that you need to give the feedback to. Okay, so so watch that too. It's some more information for you. Then feedback needs to be as specific as possible. If it's general, then it's not really useful. It needs to be quite specific, and it needs to be delivered to the person themselves, not to somebody else. Okay, and preferably in person. So speaking to somebody, whether it's virtually, like we are doing now, or whether it is in person, face to face, that's the best way to deliver feedback, because then it's a conversation. And there's a lot more information in our communication rather than just the words that we are using. So spoken feedback is almost always superior to written feedback. Okay, so how do I check myself? Um, when I want to give feedback, I need to think about, is this for my benefit or for the person that I want to give feedback to, for their benefit? Okay, we need to think about what data do I give them, so to empower them and not disempower them, so that they can make the change that needs to. Sometimes I might need to provide information with it. Okay. If it's something that somebody's learning, then I might have to provide additional information. But a lot of the time, if we simply tell people what the impact is of something that they've done, it is enough. We are all intelligent human beings, and they themselves get to decide how they want to change their behavior or how they want to do things differently in the future. Okay, impact feedback is a really useful form of feedback. Um, it follows a very strict structure. The structure is, when you said or did something, the impact on me was something. Okay, both of those things becomes indisputable if we do it in the following way. If we say, when you said or did blah, and we do it like a movie camera would capture it, or a video camera. So it's literally what the person said or what they did, described in a neutral way with no interpretation. So it's not, when you spoke angry to me, um, it would be when you raised your voice, or when you spoke loudly, or when you spoke faster, or um, when you when your tone was clipped. So all of those things can be, if a movie camera recorded it, a movie camera would have been able to say the person spoke louder. Okay, so it's not interpreting that they spoke louder because they were angry or upset or anything, simply stating what had happened like a movie camera. And the second part of it, the impact on me, it's like unzipping my head. And it's hard for us because we don't actually, most of the time, we don't know why or how something landed for us. We just know we didn't like it. Okay. So it's much more important to say, I didn't like, it's much more important to say, when you spoke to me um, with quite a loud voice, the impact on me was that I got upset or I got anxious or I got angry. Then it's much more useful, that information, than to say when you spoke about when you spoke to me, I didn't like it. Okay, the person doesn't have a true experience of what the impact on us is. Okay, the invitation to everyone watching this is to think about, if I think this is what I have control over, very often, if I make the circle bigger and I think about influence, I can influence things that I don't have control over by giving feedback to the people who do have control over it. Okay, so the invitation is to start critically examining who you have influence over through giving feedback, and being brave and courageous and practicing the feedback with somebody maybe before you give it to somebody that has more power in the organization, more seniority in the organization than you. Practice it with somebody else, and then and then go and try it out and see what happens, making sure that they are open to feedback. Okay, so enjoy practicing feedback.